Imagine waking up in a world where the cold could kill you before breakfast. There were no heated homes, no warm jackets, no electricity, only freezing wind, endless snow, and the constant fight to stay alive. Welcome to the Ice Age, one of the harshest environments humans have ever faced. For thousands of years, much of the Earth was covered in ice. Temperatures stayed below freezing for months at a time. Every sunrise brought another battle against hunger, frost, and deadly predators. One mistake could mean frostbite or death. Yet somehow our ancestors survived. How they did it is one of the most incredible stories in human history. They used every resource nature gave them. Nothing was wasted. Not the meat, not the bones, not even the hides. Every part of an animal became another chance to live. Families worked together every single day because surviving alone was nearly impossible. But staying warm was only the beginning. Finding food was even more dangerous. During the Ice Age, snow covered most plants, leaving people with very little to eat. That forced ancient hunters to chase enormous animals like mammoths, giant bison, and reindeer. A single mammoth could feed an entire group for weeks. But hunting one was incredibly risky. These giants were stronger, faster, and far heavier than any human. One mistake could send hunters flying or crush them beneath thousands of kilograms of muscle and bone. Instead of relying on strength, humans relied on teamwork. Groups surrounded their prey from different directions, slowly guiding the animals toward cliffs, muddy ground, or natural traps. Sometimes the hunt lasted for hours. Sometimes it lasted for days. Success meant survival. Failure meant starvation. When the hunt was finally over, every part of the animal became valuable. The meat became food. The fat became fuel and an important source of energy. Bones became tools, needles, weapons, and even building materials. Nothing was wasted. But perhaps the greatest invention of all wasn't a weapon. It was clothing. Without warm clothing, surviving the Ice Age would have been impossible. Fresh animal hides weren't immediately useful. They were heavy, stiff, and wet. Ancient people carefully cleaned them, stretched them, dried them, and treated them with animal fat to make the leather softer and more durable. Then came one of humanity's greatest inventions, the bone needle. For the first time, people could sew fitted clothing instead of simply wrapping animal skins around themselves. Layered fur trapped warm air close to the body, protecting them from freezing temperatures. They created warm boots, gloves, fur hoods, and face coverings. Every stitch improved their chances of surviving another brutal winter. Good clothing allowed humans to travel farther into colder lands than ever before. But warm clothes still weren't enough. They needed shelter. Whenever possible, families lived inside natural caves. The thick stone walls blocked icy winds while trapping precious warmth from their fires. But caves were not always available. Across the frozen plains, trees were often rare. So humans solved the problem with incredible creativity. They built homes from mammoth bones. Huge tusks and massive leg bones formed the frame of their shelters. Animal hides were stretched across the structure to block wind and snow. Inside, a small fire filled the shelter with warmth. Families cooked meals, repaired clothing, sharpened tools, and prepared for the next hunt. Scientists have discovered these remarkable mammoth bone houses at archaeological sites across Europe. Some may have sheltered families through many long winters. At the center of every home was fire. Fire gave warmth. It cooked food. It dried clothing. It scared away dangerous predators. Without it, survival would have been nearly impossible. Still, winter could last for months. Sometimes hunting simply wasn't possible. So ancient people planned ahead. Large pieces of meat were stored in frozen pits where nature itself acted like a giant freezer. Animal fat was carefully saved because it provided valuable energy during the coldest months. Families spent long periods repairing tools, making clothing, and waiting for storms to pass. Some shelters were even built partly below ground, using the earth and snow as natural insulation. One idea about Ice Age survival remains controversial. Some researchers have explored whether ancient humans entered long periods of reduced activity during the harshest winters. However, there is very little evidence for this idea, and most scientists do not consider it a proven explanation. Instead, the strongest evidence points to something far more impressive: planning, teamwork, fire, clothing, shelter, and intelligence. These simple ideas allowed humans to survive where many other animals struggled. But the Ice Age wasn't only testing the weather, it was also testing different human species. One of our closest relatives was the Neanderthal. They were skilled hunters who survived harsh climates for hundreds of thousands of years. They mastered fire, built shelters, made tools, and cared for injured members of their communities. Yet around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappeared. Scientists are still trying to understand exactly why. Climate change, small populations, disease, and competition may all have played important roles. Meanwhile, modern humans continued adapting. Each generation passed new knowledge to the next: better tools, better clothing, better hunting techniques, better cooperation. Knowledge became humanity's greatest survival weapon. Eventually, the Ice Age came to an end. The glaciers slowly retreated. Forests returned. The world became warmer. But the lessons our ancestors learned never disappeared. Every winter coat we wear, every warm home we build, every campfire we enjoy, all trace their roots back to the incredible people who refused to give up when the earth was covered in ice. Our ancestors survived not because they were the strongest. They survived because they adapted. They worked together. They kept learning. And they never stopped solving problems. Without their courage and determination, none of us would be here today. So the next time winter feels cold, remember the people who survived when the world itself was frozen. If you enjoyed this journey into the Ice Age, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more fascinating history documentaries, and tell us in the comments, do you think you could survive just 1 week during the Ice Age? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.